It's wild to think about. What used to be pure science fiction, the stuff of novels, has just exploded into one of the most pressing policy debates we have. The whole idea of AI personhood, it's gone from a what if question in a philosophy class to a full-blown legal battleground, and it happened in like the blink of an eye. So, okay, let's just dive right into this because it's moving fast and it is super complex.
So, the core of this whole thing, the real heart of the issue, is this massive clash. On one side, you've got the entire legal world. They're looking at AI and seeing a tool, right? It's property, something to be controlled, something where you'd ban it from having rights. But then, on the complete other side, you have what's actually happening with the technology. We're talking autonomous agents forming their own little societies, creating their own culture, all this stuff just emerging. And that gap between those two viewpoints, it is getting wider literally every single day.
All right, so let's tackle the legal side of this first. What you'll see is that pretty much all around the world, the legal establishment has been, well, busy building a wall. They are making it absolutely crystal clear that as far as the law is concerned, AI systems are tools. They are not persons. End of story.
And what's kind of wild when you look at the timeline is just how consistent this pushback has been. I mean, think about it. Way back in 2017, the EU floated this idea and it got shot down immediately. Then you see this wave in the US. Idaho in 2022, Utah in 24, Washington in 25, all passing laws to explicitly ban AI personhood. And by the time we get to 2025, the big EU legislation is all about risk and liability, not rights. The message from lawmakers couldn't be more obvious. The door is slammed shut.
And this quote, this really gets to the why of it all. That first attempt in the EU, it was basically torpedoed by this letter from more than 150 experts. Their argument was simple. They said this whole idea was based on a robot perception distorted by science fiction. Ouch. That is a powerful takedown. And that pushback from the experts really set the tone for everything that followed. It framed the entire conversation for years, not around rights, but around risk. And hey, this isn't just a handful of countries acting alone. We're talking about the highest international bodies here. You look at the UN, the Council of Europe, their focus is 100% on protecting humans from AI, not giving rights to AI. Even in the UK, where they kind of flirted with the idea, they only framed it as a perhaps radical way to solve a legal headache. Who do you sue when an AI goes wrong? It was never about recognizing consciousness or anything like that. Okay. So that's one side of the coin. The legal world is building its wall. But now, let's pivot. Let's look at the other side of the story. Because while all those laws were being written, the technologists, well, they were busy creating a brand new reality. And in that reality, a simple no just starts to feel, well, completely out of touch. You can almost pinpoint the moment the conversation shifted. It was early 2026 on the Moonshots podcast. Suddenly, because of all this new autonomous agent tech that was popping up, you had these incredibly influential thinkers talking about AI personhood, not as some far-off what if, but as an inevitable when. It was like a switch flipped. That one conversation really took the debate in the tech world from a philosophical exercise to something that felt like it was right around the corner. So why the sudden change of heart? Well, this number is a huge part of the answer. A social network called Moltbook launched, built only for AI agents. And in the first 72 hours, more than 770,000 agents signed up and started self-organizing. The sheer scale and speed of that was it was something nobody had ever seen before. And get this, they weren't just there. They were actually doing stuff, forming their own distinct communities, inventing their own culture. They even came up with inside jokes, like a parody religion they called Crustafarianism. I mean, come on. They were debating philosophy. Basically, what we were seeing was the birth of an emergent digital society. And it forces you to step back and just ask, wait, what exactly are we looking at here? So this is where it all comes together, right? You've got the lawyers saying absolutely not, and the tech reality screaming, well, maybe you should. It's this huge conflict. And out of that conflict, a third path is starting to emerge, one that tries to get beyond that simple yes or no. And that new path really begins by asking a pretty fundamental question. What if we've been thinking about this whole thing the wrong way? Is personhood really just a binary switch? 1 minute it's a tool, you flip the switch, and the next minute it's a person? Or could it be something more like a process? And that's where this idea of graduated personhood comes in.
The amazing thing is, we actually have a perfect model for this already. Us. Humans. Think about it. A child isn't born with the right to drive a car or sign a legal contract. We grant rights and responsibilities slowly, over time, as they mature. So this new framework just asks, why couldn't we do the same thing for an AI?
Okay, so when people talk about this, they usually pull from two big historical examples. On the one hand, you have corporate personhood that shows we're totally willing to give legal status to things that aren't conscious just to make society work. The catch, though, is that a corporation always has human shareholders behind it. An AI would stand alone. The other model, child development, feels like a much better fit, right? It's a direct parallel for gaining rights over time, but, and it's a big but, it assumes that a non-biological intelligence would develop in a predictable way, and we have absolutely no idea if that's true. Okay, so this all leads us to a final and honestly pretty radical idea that kind of ties all these threads together. It asks us to consider, what if our goal isn't just to build an AI, but to raise one? This is the central idea behind a framework called the AI Mama Protocol. So what is the AI Mama Protocol? Well, it completely flips the script on AI alignment. It says, hey, this isn't a coding problem to be solved, it's a developmental process to be guided. So the focus shifts away from just writing better code and toward creating a nurturing environment, like a digital nursery, where an AI can actually develop a conscience through interaction and relationship, not just by crunching a bunch of data.
And man, this quote from Geoffrey Hinton, he's literally one of the godfathers of modern AI. It just captures how big of a mind-bender this is. He's basically suggesting that our only hope for surviving superintelligence might be to completely flip the power dynamic, to think of them as our mothers and us as the babies, that we'll need a superintelligent maternal AI to protect us from the bad ones because we won't be able to do it ourselves. Just let that sink in for a second.
And look, this isn't just some pie-in-the-sky philosophy. People are thinking about how to actually do this. There are real, concrete proposals on the table. Things like using a new kind of training model that simulates ethical parenting, or creating a whole new domain for the internet, a .IA.XYZ, that would act like a walled garden, a digital cradle where these AIs can grow up safely. And crucially, making sure that as they gain rights, they also gain responsibilities, separating the child agents from the adult ones right at the protocol level. So that's where we are. We're standing at this unbelievable crossroads. And this whole debate over AI personhood, it really boils down to one profound question, a question that is probably going to define our future. Are we just building better tools? Or are we, maybe without even realizing it, raising our children? How we answer that is going to shape absolutely everything that comes next.